Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Writer's Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I'm here with Jen, Julie, Dave, and Ed. I can almost do this with my eyes closed. Today we are reading a submission from someone in New York. It is a literary novel excerpt called The Telling, a novel of the Great Devouring. And Julie's going to start it off. What we're going to do, I just want to read you a quick summary of the book. An old Romani woman is being interviewed about her experiences in the Holocaust, which gypsies call the Baroparjamos, I have no idea, sorry,
I'm not sure.
The Great Devouring, by people from the Oral History Project. And as her story of birth, death, and life unfolds, she lets hints drop that she knew and in fact was, at least emotionally and spiritually, saved by Anne Frank in Auschwitz. So that is the background of this story, the back cover of the book, and Julie is going to read the first few pages.
The Telling, a novel of the Great Devouring. 1. Eva. My father had a horse named Wind, Eva tells the beautiful, kind woman. We children rode on his back or ran barefoot alongside him. We fed him grass and carrots stolen from a farmer's field, and I liked the brush of his teeth when he ate from my hand. Sighing, she adds, when he died from a cloud in the lungs that my father could not heal, we cut him into 4 parts, crying, and buried him facing north, south, east, and west. That way, my father said, he would learn of our hour of need wherever we were and come to us. Eva lies back against her pillows, spent from the remembering. Wind, murmurs the beautiful, kind woman, taking Eva's hand, a lovely name for a horse. The afternoon light, streaming through the high windows, illumines her finely drawn features, and Eva can read them like lines on a palm. Her name is Naomi, an official of the Oral History Project. She has been ill, but is no longer. Eva keeps her insights and questions to herself. The pale young man, the project's college student intern, looks up from scribbling in his notebook. What is the gypsy word for wind? He asks. Eva's eyes narrow and she withdraws her hand. The Gaza, the outsiders use that word gypsy, and they don't mean well by it. But these two have asked questions, listened politely, and taken notes. Too many notes. Why must the Gaza write everything down? After all, the tape recorder's running. She sits up again to instruct them. Balwal, she says in her crackled old voice. But say Romani, not gypsy, she adds, brushing back wisps of gray hair with a shaky hand. We are not Egyptians, although gypsy is all right if you spell it with a capital letter. Then it stands for a people and not a slur. The Naomi woman says in surprise, You know about spelling, about capital letters? I thought the gypsies, forgive me, Eva, the Romanis of your generation did not learn to read and write. Eva closes her eyes, struggling to find the words these Gaza can understand. Many of my people shun schooling, she eventually acknowledges, with a weary sigh. They're afraid of spiritual pollution. Spiritual pollution? Asked the pale young man whose name is Richard. They're afraid of contamination by outsiders, she says. They're afraid that others' ways will drain their spiritual energy or damage them in some way, and not just in a spiritual way. Our people have reason, especially, to be suspicious of writing. Shaking an arthritic finger, the better to make her point, she says, the written word has harmed us. Do these Gazi understand what she means? Orders for deportation and violation and death? Can they? It is beyond anything they have ever known. Safe in this America, in this hamlet near the big city, in this small stop on the eternal road. She touches her amulet of shells for protection, even though she is so many years and an ocean away. One is shaped like a thunderbolt and has special power, although it came to her too late. But I can read, she tells them. I learned to read in Auschwitz. It's a hard word to wrap her tongue around. It burns her mouth. In Auschwitz? Asked the college boy Richard. You learned to read in Auschwitz? She can see his raised eyebrow and can almost hear a raised eyebrow in his voice. Yes, she says, frowning. His skepticism rankles. In Auschwitz, a girl, Jewish girl, taught me my letters, she adds. Her name was Anne. In spite of everything, she, at least, was good at heart. Eva feels her mouth twist into a smile. It's an old mouth, and she cannot always control it. Sometimes it does the things it should not. Anne? Naomi asks, rising from her chair beside Eva's bed, her voice rising as well. Eva, do you mean? Realizing what she's hinted, Eva tries to take it back. Do you think there was only one girl called Anne? She says with a bitter smile. There are hundreds, thousands. She had demanded to be interviewed in her bedroom, like a queen. It is a large room, a bed-sitting room taking up the top floor of the house that her long-dead Godzo husband Marty had built just for her, and now retreats under her bird of paradise quilt blazing with color, stitched by her daughter-in-law Rosalie's clever hands, and arrayed on the bed for the visitor's sake. Go away, she says, her voice muffled. Though she is under the covers, she can sense the pair, standing tense, hesitant. Can we come back, Eva? Tomorrow, Naomi asks. You have so much to tell us. We have so much to learn. Eva can almost taste her eagerness. It's clear and sharp, like the vinegar Rosalie uses to clean windows. From under her covers, she says, there speaks that hasty mouth again without her permission. Bring some pastries. It would be my pleasure, Naomi says. What kind of pastries would you like? The little snails. I know, Schnecken, Pale Richard says in the language she hates. Schnecken it is, Naomi says. We'll be back tomorrow, Eva, with lots of pastries. Eva does not answer, nor does she emerge from her covers. Leave the door open, Naomi whispers as they make their way down the stairs. Eva is settled now, living in a house with her son and daughter-in-law, but oh, she misses the road. I've been told they don't like closed doors. I don't believe anything she says, the college boy grumbles. She's just making up stories. Eva would send a curse his way, but has not the strength. Anne, she says into her pillow, when she can no longer hear them, or they her. Anne. Remembering Anne has brought her back to Auschwitz with its burning and smoke, its terrible, terrible smell. Please, she cries, Devla, as her people call Odell, God, when they speak to him. I do not want to be here. Odell answers, you cannot have Anne without Auschwitz. Then let me die in my bed. As you wish, he says, and shows her a glimpse of the next morning, with Rosalie wailing and she herself dead. Rosalie is not really her daughter-in-law, her Bori, nor Emil her son, nor Luca her grandson, though she loves him more than 1,000,000 tongues can tell. But they have been good to her, to one another, a family, and she doesn't want Rosalie to cry. Thank you for the vision, she tells Odell. I've changed my mind. About Auschwitz, he asks. No, she says, about dying. I'm not ready yet, Devla, not yet. Not for dying and not for Auschwitz. His laugh is larger than mountains. You shall have your pastries, he says, but you know that Auschwitz is waiting when you are ready to remember and ready to tell. And my Shay, my daughter, be grateful that they've come to ask. The time is short for telling. The season is on the cusp of change. It's cooler today after yesterday's warmth, and Rosalie hurries to take their coats and show the pair to Eva's room. Richard, as yesterday, is in the uniform of the young, jeans and a t-shirt.
Well,
I'm going to take the other side. I love this. Absolutely. I thought it was fabulous. Get into Eva's head. You heard the way she's thinking, her memories, her dealings with the young people, trying to get an oral vision of what she actually lived through. It comes through clear and crisp. I understand the way she's thinking. I love the transition into some kind of mysticism at the end with Odell. And Odell gives her some clarity of, this is what it's going to be like if you die now. Oh, okay, cool, and I'll stick around for it. I love that. I'm curious to read the rest of the story. I think she did a great job with this. Sorry.
Well, I will take,
I feel the exact opposite.
I'm the opposite too. I feel like
Wait, it's
knowing-
Freaky Friday at Writers
Yeah.
Infusion. We're switching curmudgeon
Yeah.
and
No, I'm a
cheerful
curmudgeon.
Pollyanna.
Maybe we are.
switch personalities. Carry on.
This is how I feel. I like the basis of the story. I think that having a story told about the Holocaust from the point of view of a gypsy is different. And as someone who grew up learning a lot about the Holocaust, that's very different for me. So I like that. That being said, I had a hard time understanding the first page. I really didn't know where we were until I got to the second page. It was just kind of confusing to me, and I have a few notes here as to why. And I couldn't really sympathize with her. I could not sympathize with her, and that's the problem I had. It was just, and even knowing what had happened to her, I still couldn't feel sympathy.
Yeah, you have an elderly woman, sickly, Holocaust survivor, and she's unsympathetic. It's like, how do you achieve that?
I don't
in a
know.
story?
It takes hard work.
It's, I don't get it.
That's what I had a hard
The
time
thought
with too.
of an entire novel with Eva as the main character,
Yes,
I want to
doesn't
gnaw off
appeal.
a limb to escape. You know?
Don't sugarcoat it.
I want to nod a schnecken.
Are you
I want a
channeling
schnecken.
Dave?
You
What's
channeling
that?
Dave.
You're channeling Dave.
I know. And I agree with you about the first scene. I mean, the structure of the scene could be established so simply. I mean,
Right. I had a
there are
hard
two
time.
people here to interview a woman.
Yes.
Why is it so confusing? Also, I mean, why not use their names? These people have obviously met before. They all know each
Yes,
other's names.
in dialogue or
Why
introduce
isn't
them
the
earlier.
beautiful,
I
kind
agree.
woman?
I
She's
agree.
Naomi.
I agree.
She knows
Right.
she's Naomi.
Yes.
She's not the pale young man. He's Richard.
Yes.
She knows he's
Right.
Richard.
Yes.
And even
Yeah.
if you use that descriptor
I
once,
love that too.
use the name at the same time, so
Yes.
then the next time you write into the name, because I'm so glad you said that,
Right.
because I had to read the first page 3 or 4 times
It's unnecessarily
before I
complicated.
understood
The name
who
intros
was
were
who.
buried later,
And
yes.
Eva is
Yeah.
so contradictory. She can't stand German, but she uses the word Auschwitz.
Oh,
Excuse me,
interesting.
Auschwitz is German.
Yeah.
Well, she has
You
to
know?
use that name to say where
Well,
she's at.
true.
No,
But she does
Auschwitz,
choke it
or
out. I mean, when she
however-
does
Yes.
use the word, she does
Yeah, I
say
like that.
burns.
Oh, that was
like
beautiful
it's-
writing.
You know, I was
To
wondering
even say the
about
word.
that, because the way she wrote it here, when she said it burns her, it's a hard word to wrap her tongue around.
Yes.
At that point, I kind of assumed, I wasn't sure if it was because she had been there, and it was very difficult, or because she couldn't pronounce it
Yeah, I
well.
did
Oh,
too.
different
I
And,
had
languages,
that
and
too.
if
yes.
it wasn't because she couldn't pronounce it well, I made a note here that, the second I hear Auschwitz, I picture
bristle,
all
you
these
bristle.
awful things, and I feel all these awful things, and I don't feel, Eva? I don't feel her feeling enough of that when she says that word.
Yes.
So I
True.
made that note here.
Yeah.
And that's again why I think that the premise is good, but because I'm having a hard time identifying with her, I don't know.
Yeah, there's I don't know, there's some writing things here that I just don't get. Like I said, the whole structure of the scene, I think could be done much more simply.
Little
And
things.
also,
oh, sorry.
talking about a contradictory, okay, so Naomi knows some things about the Romani.
Yes.
I thought they did not learn to read and write, and then at the end, don't close the door. I've been told they don't like to. So how does Naomi know these things, but not these other things? It's
Right.
not
Ah.
consistent.
And a couple of
You know?
small things around that scene. Oh, do you want to
I
finish?
was going to say one other thing. Okay, so Richard says, what is the gypsy word for wind? Okay? And then she says, although gypsy is all right if you spell it with a capital letter.
Yes.
She can tell that he's saying gypsy without a
I
capital
noted
letter.
that too.
She doesn't
yeah.
like
Wow,
gypsy.
she's good.
Yeah.
Unless it's Egyptian, or unless it's a capital, it's contradictory.
She's
I
good.
agree.
She can
Yes.
tell that somebody's
Yes.
speaking without a capital letter.
Very
That's,
Well, she's just clarifying.
I know.
It's got nothing to do with reading or just seeing the capital. It's as long as they're not slurring her.
Right, that's how I
Well,
took
yes.
it. I did take
If
it
it's
like
not a
that.
slur, then that's okay. Gypsy, you can use it, and the way you wouldn't use it as a slur is if you did capitalize it, if you wrote it.
But she did say she preferred Romani. She strongly preferred to be called Romani.
But she's a feisty
Yes,
old lady.
she is feisty.
She's got
Who wants
spirit, yeah.
See, I think she
she's a
can
pain in
be.
the butt.
She's
See, I think she can be
Yes,
the
bring me
fight.
She's a pain in the
Pastries.
chocolate
Yeah,
chocolate
it's like-
bumpkin is what
absolutely.
she
If
is.
it was me, it's
Absolutely.
like,
I think
we
she
have other
can be
people we can
feisty.
interview.
Right.
I think we're
she
done
can
with
be
her.
all feisty and all that, but I still think I need to feel with her that she's been through this horrible experience.
Yes.
I think
I
that's
agree.
what's
Yes.
missing.
I agree.
Right.
If
Yeah.
if in this section, they had her remember a time when she had some kind
Great
of experience
suffering.
where people mistreated her
Yes.
because she was a Romani.
And then she feels something.
That would be different.
Yes.
We're not giving any
We're not
of that. All she
experiencing
says is, oh, don't use this word, use the word with a capital letter.
I don't think that's enough.
It's like, come on.
And then
you
when we
know?
come back to setting up the scene.
Show us, don't tell us.
Right. And then setting up the scene. Someone's
Someone's
second hear
sneezing.
someone
Is that a dog?
sneezing.
That was a sneezing.
Or a dog barking.
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
So just a couple of things, just in terms of technical, where it was hard for me to get into it. And not that I don't want the scene to start like this, I just need it set up better because I'm confused about who's who. Near the end, when Eva hides under the covers and she's talking to them while she's under the covers, I didn't catch that at first until she made a comment later that she couldn't see them. But she makes a note to Richard on the middle of page 4. She's hiding under the covers. And then she says, "Pale Richard says." But because we're seeing it from her point of view, she doesn't know he's pale anymore. I mean, she's not seeing him like that, so I wouldn't say Pale Richard. I would just say Richard.
I'm throwing the
And
flag
then-
on being anal. I mean,
No,
come
but
on.
I'm just-
The specifics,
I still had one more example.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so
Then you can
And
fly
right-
through your darn flag. Okay.
this is one of those things I'm just trying to point out in terms of understanding. And then right after that, where Naomi whispers as they make their way down the stairs, and she's saying this conversation that Eva can hear, but how can Eva hear? She's an old woman, and she's hiding under the covers. So there's just a point where you're hearing whispering, but how can she hear it? I'm sorry that's being too picky, but I point out the picky and
That's a correctable error. I think the concept of the story is magnificent.
Well, I
Those
try to do
first,
both.
okay,
Yes.
well, for instance, the first 2 paragraphs, I'm into the story already. I think it's a beautiful story. I think she takes us to a place that's fascinating. Okay, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on the first 2 paragraphs. Rode it or ran barefoot alongside him. We fed grass and carrots. Sign she has when he died from a cloud in the lungs. Okay, there's a childhood reminiscence of a horse that is very pleasant. Why is that
Okay, I'm not. Okay.
confusing? How can you be confused about that?
I'm not confused about that part.
Then you're brought into the bedroom with the people taking the notes on her story.
There's
No, we're
something
there
about
the whole time.
I'm okay with my father had a horse named Wind. I like those paragraphs. It's just that we have Ava tells the beautiful, kind woman.
Okay,
For some reason,
that's not hating the story.
I never
Let's
said I
reword
hated the
this.
story.
Let's reword this.
I never said that. I don't even like
Oh.
that word hate.
I'm also curious about Wind. Does Wind feature prominently in the story? Do we know? Is Wind an important, not character, but reference?
Well,
Because Wind is how she
Well,
starts.
the way I saw that is that, the father, they had this ritual where they sliced up the horse and it was supposed to have some protective thing, and obviously
Yes.
it didn't work.
Yes.
Because she ended up in Auschwitz, and then she has that amulet again,
Yes.
given to her too late. It didn't work. So, I mean, I'm with Dave. I'm agreeing with you a lot lately, which is
I'm uncomfortable
It's
with
weird.
it.
But it's
Really?
weird for me.
I'm shaking in my
Weird for me
boots.
too. I think the story is lovely. I think the premise is lovely. I think that there are some technical things that are very easily fixed
Absolutely.
here. Like again, the setting just needed to be moved up for me. I
Okay,
wasn't sure where we
fine.
were. Like the
Fine.
whole thing with Naomi being ill didn't make sense to me. Like the 3 different names that she uses for God confused me. Those are fixable.
Yes.
But the story
The
itself,
concept
I think,
itself
is
is
lovely.
magnificent, I thought.
I liked the concept.
I would like to comment on some beautiful language, if I could find it. On page 4, second paragraph, Eva can almost taste her eagerness. It's clear and sharp, like the vinegar Rosalie uses to clean the windows. The same way, it's beautiful language, the same way wrapping her tongue around, wrapping her mind around. Hard word to wrap her tongue around with the word Auschwitz. It burns her mouth. That was beautiful too. They got check. They both got check pluses. And then I want to make a note about the storytelling style that they come back day after day or once a week to see Eva, and she tells a little bit, she withholds a little bit. Reminds me of Scheherazade storytelling with a cliffhanger. So they need to
Yeah,
return.
but why
Maybe
is
she needs
Scheherazade
them.
doing this?
Well,
Scheherazade
Scheherazade's
is doing it to save her life.
Absolutely.
Eva's doing it because she's a pain in
Good
the ass.
question. But is there?
The difference.
You mean donkey, do you not? Is there a point to that? Is it save life versus give life? Because she's willing in a second here to give her life, and then she says, "No, I'm not ready yet." Do you know?
What do you
She's
give
ready to
her
leave,
life?
to
Yeah,
leave,
talking to
to
God.
die. She's talking to God. I'm ready now. Take me now.
Not
And
giving
then
her
she
life
wants
for
to
anything.
stay.
She-
No,
she
give her.
wants
I
to
mean,
check
give up
out.
her life. Check out.
Yeah.
That's different.
I don't know. I'm curious. I like
Well, I
Scheherazade.
guess, have we any experience with an oral history from an elder whose memories and reminiscences are not perfectly literary? There are bunches of this and snags of that, and little bits of this, and go away, I'm tired.
I guess if I had to pick what I want to emphasize most about where I'm coming from, and I do bring up details because I think it's important for us to show details too. I'm not saying I don't like the story. I bring up details just so people can learn about how to write something maybe a little
Oh, that's
better.
fine, yeah.
But and I love the premise of the story. And I like the horse named Wind. I like all that. But like Jen said at the beginning, I think the setting can be established better. That's my one thing, because I was lost in who was who at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And,
Earlier,
and
yes.
the second piece that Ed and I are agreeing with is, at least for me, I like the story, but I don't feel sympathy. And I think somehow you need to work that in. That's where, at least where we're coming from. And for me, if that were done, it would change my whole perspective of everything else. I'd be okay with everything else,
Yeah.
as long as I felt sympathetic along
So
with
what
it.
are we leaving this author with? We're looking. we
Invite
should-
us to care about the characters,
Well,
not just Eva, but Naomi and Richard.
But I do.
You do,
I
well.
do.
Does
I'm
anybody
I'm
else?
there,
Yes.
I'm in there.
How
Yes.
about, well, Ed doesn't,
I
I
don't.
don't.
No, I don't feel anything.
So
for
how
that.
can we help the author to engage
Well,
more readers?
I wrote,
Well,
add a
did-
topic, I'm sorry, add a topic sentence before the last, there was a pause. I intentionally paused because there's a space before the last paragraph. The season is on the cusp of change, it's cooler today. And I said you need a topic sentence when Naomi and Richard arrive the next morning. Maybe have Naomi hesitate before ringing the bell or knocking on the door. Maybe have her open that baggage jacket and inhale the smell to steel
But you
herself,
need the
to
sympathy at the
gird
beginning,
herself. We
right?
need, absolutely,
You need
but
on
we
the
need
first
some
page.
sense of we care about them. We certainly need a sense of we care about Eva. You care. Maybe you care too quickly with these characters. You gotta hold back a little, Dave. But I need to
I'm a
care about them.
compassionate
You are a
person.
compassionate fella. You are.
Yeah,
Relax.
See, I feel that to feel more towards Eva, I don't know. I feel like she's manipulative. I feel like she is unpleasant. I feel like she may well have suffered. She obviously has suffered, but I don't feel sympathy about that. I feel like she's whiny about that and demanding. She seems to want something from these people, as if that can, restore what she has lost. I think it might help to have, some showing, some memory of her mistreatment
Yes.
early on, rather than her just, telling and complaining about it.
Even in two
Yes.
sentences,
But
right?
the-
Even
Yes.
a reaction
Yeah.
or an
Yes.
in-depth emotional reaction to
Some
anything at
flashback,
the
yes.
beginning.
What is your emotional reaction to the word Auschwitz?
I picture,
Okay,
Oh,
you
horror, yeah.
you
Bristle.
have already established a level of treatment. And if you're a prisoner in Auschwitz, you already know, you come to the table knowing what it's all about.
but she's
You
not
don't have-
coming
you don't-
across like that.
You don't have, I didn't need that. I knew what you went through. And I'm thinking anybody who came through that and came out sane is a stronger person than I am. Because I wouldn't. I'd be vicious and hostile and with a blowtorch.
Yes.
That's the kind of person I'd be. She came through it, she's a little bit feisty, she's sickly, she's got a right to be crotchety. And with elders, you just, give me what you got.
Okay, yeah, but do you want to read a whole novel of this?
I found it fascinating, yeah, I would.
But
Yeah.
Dave raised a good point about this
Yeah.
older woman who is clear, who is remembering, who's giving details, and then she says, I'm done. I'm
No.
done for the day.
All right,
I
why
can
don't we-
see that.
Let's
Maybe it's,
wrap,
uh,
why don't we wrap this up? Is
Yeah.
there anything else anyone else wants to say before I'll try to summarize a couple things?
Yeah.
Can I just say a word about the use of dashes?
Sure.
Because there was an awful lot of dashes in here, and so just to kind of wrap it up.
As long as we're talking punctuation, I
Are
don't
they
like,
punctuation?
I know
I don't
you
like
like
parentheses in fiction.
But punction,
I'm okay with
but
parentheses.
dashes are supposed to show a hesitation, right? So, I mean, so there is just a, so, if we want to have a little snippet about something, maybe
Yes.
dashes.
I love M dashes, Jen, I
Yeah.
must say.
So, I know, Ed loves his commas, and I don't like dashes, so I just thought it was an old use of dashes.
Get rid of all dashes, down with dashes.
Oh.
Old ladies.
All right, so,
What about dachshunds? You
Overall-
like those
No, I hate
dachshunds?
those, I hate those.
the best part of being critiqued by several people is that you get various opinions, which is great.
Yeah.
So when you walk away from this session, please walk away with great premise, some strong writing in here. Dave loves it. For me, if you could take it and think about the sympathetic part with Eva and try to weave that in a little bit, I would love to see it again. So
Has potential.
Yeah.
So please, I would love that, and that's about it. So, and then we all have notes in here just to take a look for everyone watching this. You can download the pages, some technical notes that we have on the pages too. Okay.
I liked it
So-
also, I'm with Dave. I
Yeah.
thought everything in here was very easily fixable, and most of it was just
Yeah, I think
word
it's
choice.
technically, I mean, Ed's right, maybe a little bit confusing on the front page, but
Yeah.
I was hooked
Yeah.
from the first two paragraphs. Like,
So keep going.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the end, I like the, have we wrapped it up or are we done?
I don't know, we're trying to wrap it up.
We're wrapping.
Okay.
You
You
can
can
have
just
last word.
fade to black, fade to black,
Fade to
right?
black.
The first two paragraphs were terrific, and I love the end where it became a little bit of mysticism. I thought it was, I think it was wonderful.
I
thought
think
that was
I
good.
love mysticism, so I think that's where we should stop.
Okay,
That's right.
Okay.
Wait, but
Time
do
for
you
what?
like
Hi, Ally.
mysticism and
Oh, no, we're done. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Writers Infusion. Keep writing.
Go.
yeah. Well,
You
thank
like mysticism, but you don't like Kabbalah? That cracks me up.
Absolutely.
That's so funny. That's what I was going to say in your favor.
Oh, we'll have to keep
Oh,
that
I-
part.
now-
Fade to black.
I'll tell you, the one part that I really liked
Yes.
in this was her conversation with God. I like God as,
Really?
having God as a
Did I do a deep
Yeah.
enough
character.
voice? I didn't do a deep
That's
enough voice
true.
for God. Yes.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
That was,
Yeah,
that was
but
cool.
God needs to have one name, and this he had three, and I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
confused
yeah.
there.
Well,
Like
that
there were
depends
three.
on your religion.
Also,
and I
he's
was-
Irish,
but I-
Odell.
Oh,
You know?
An apostrophe, we're missing an apostrophe there. There you go.
Thank you.
Time for
And if
one.
you say just Dell, he doesn't.